good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is from wherever you are watching. This episode of Real Life Game Changers is exactly that. It is the path to your true self. What does that even mean? That's what we're going to spend the next hour or so just going into and discovering how this can help you in so many different areas of your life, financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So first of all, when you're jumping on here, what I want to see from you is just comment, where in the world are you watching this from? And tell us your country and tell us your state or your city. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. So put that in the comments. And I would also like you to start tagging some people. What we are going to be going into this evening. Oh my goodness. Yes, Charlotte, London. Great to see you on here. So Charlotte, I know you're very active. So tag as many people as possible. What we are going to go into tonight or this morning, wherever it is, or whenever it is that you are watching this, whether it's live, whether it's on a replay somewhere. We're going to be covering all types of things: financial, physical, business, investment, health, well-being. What is it that you're supposed to be doing in life, and how, all in all, you discover your true potential. And that's what this is all about. So let us know where you are and put it in the comments and tag away. We're going to be doing a competition here as well. So for the people to qualify, you first of all, you need to share this on your timeline, and then you need to tag at least 10 people. If you are in the Real Life tribe already, you tag 10 people in the tribe and at least 10 people out of the tribe to be in with a chance. We're going to be giving away some real life coin that will be loaded. Let me just show you my one. Will be loaded on this wonderful credit card right here. So if you don't already have one, it will be sent out to you fully loaded already. That will be going to the winner by the end. So you have to be here at the end, because when we call the winner, then you have to be here, comment, let us know you're still here, and then we'll be sending that out to you. So thank you very much for doing that, guys. Do comment, do share, and I'll mention that a few other times for these people who are coming on a little bit later. But I am super interested to dive straight in, because I am here with Melissa, the author of this amazing book that found me at the right time. Now, Melissa is the founder of the Spiritual Expansion Academy, and she is super passionate about expansion and ascension and expanding the consciousness, and supports many people in many different fields, which we want to hear more about, Melissa. But first of all, thank you so much for spending the time all the way across the pond in the US of A to be here with us.
Thank you so much, Mark, and hi, everyone. So happy to be here, and I love the topics of financial, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, we love it. So thank you for being here. Like, just give us a bit of background of, like, you know, you, how you grew up, and like how you started to discover these abilities that you have.
Well, I always knew at a very young age, I'm just very sensitive to energy, and I'm also just know things. I've always known things. I'll just know that this is going on. It's almost like I don't know how to live outside of a multidimensional awareness, but I kind of shut it down. And this happens to a lot of people, not shut it down, just, life gets in the way and you start just focusing on the reality that you see in front of you, the trees and the people and the situations. But what really is important for anyone to know is that you always have this connection to you. And people think that it's outside of you, like it's a spirit guide or an angel, but it's always us. And I encourage people to really connect to their own higher consciousness, their own quiet voice, their intuition, because that's the key to really being happier and healthier in your life. But so I started this path very early. I'm kind of woo-woo, but I'm a very grounded woo-woo, which you don't see often. And the reason I'm grounded is because we live in a human world and we are human beings, and we have to navigate a world and we have to understand how the world works. And because of my really connected self, which always has been evolving, it's not like I was like fully connected at 13. I wasn't, because you're always evolving as a human. But I'm also fascinated with human beings. I'm interested in how they work, their subconscious programming, their emotional stuff, what's going on in the body. Why does one person succeed amazingly, another person is sabotaging everything in their life? And I just love humans. So I'm really passionate about understanding the depth, because a human we're so complicated. We're very, very complicated beings. Just our thoughts alone could be complicated.
So would you say that we are complicated, or would you say like we are actually, it is pretty simple to live a fantastic life, but we make it complicated?
Yes. So what happens is, so I'll explain what it looks like multidimensionally to me. So what it looks like in quantum mechanics, they talk a lot about entanglement, and that's how everything is connected. And it does look like kind of like a crazy ball of yarn. And what happens, we become entangled in this subconscious programming, old fears, the way our family wants us to be, our old traumas, and it becomes a tangled mess. And we live our life through that entangled mess, but we don't have to. The moment that we say, okay, you know what is really going on inside of me? Why am I living in so much fear? Like, what is happening deeper? Then once you start recognizing it, you can untangle the complication. And it is really simple. We're multidimensional beings, and that is simplistic in the way that you can create your own experiences. But most of us create from a subconscious programming, and all the fears and things like that hold us back a little bit. And I think that the reason we make it complicated is because that's what we are taught in society. You have to go through this. You have to have this much money. You have to know these things. You have to have this education. None of that's true, because you've seen people come from nothing and literally accelerate their life financially, emotionally, relationship wise.
For sure. And you talk about this subconscious programming. Is it quantifiable to say, or first of all, let me ask you this, is all of that from like this lifetime?
Not necessarily, but I do believe, I used to be very into past lives, which I still am, but what I've recognized, what spirit has told me, so I will talk about like my own higher consciousness is connected to a whole network of wisdom. So we don't have to call them guides or angels. It's a network of wisdom. And this is only because I've worked, I spent a lot of time in meditation and connecting to that wisdom. So from that wisdom, what I've received is that we choose the body and the experiences that are helping us deal with all our past life issues, right? It's called karma. But this karma is really about our patterns, our larger patterns. So it's not about the minute, it's about the bigger picture. And if we can start seeing the bigger picture, we can move through things a lot quicker, or more quickly, I should say. So yes, we bring that information with us, but we also bring not just the negative things, but the really super positive things. Like, have you ever met anyone, Mark, who's the connector? I love connectors, so they're always fascinate me. But they're the ones who go, "Oh my gosh, you have to meet Mark. Oh my gosh, you and Sally, well, you guys would get along beautifully. Oh my gosh, I have to connect you with that." Those connectors, they came with that ability.
Yeah, sure. And what's worth mentioning here as well is like, We're talking about some kind of deep things here, but like how connected it is to how people, you can call it, perform financially, and also then in their physical body, in their relationships, in their communication, in their job, in their business, and then like their mindset and how their then emotions about their feeling about themselves. Like all of this stuff is so interconnected, and I got this from your book, like in great detail, so simplistic, ready to understand. But for me, it came at exactly the right time, and I got like exactly the lessons what I needed to be able to continue moving forward. So like we have this subconscious programming, and like you say, it's because that's what we get taught. Like I got 4 children myself, so I've seen them as they come through it, me being at different stages of my life, how they act differently because they've had different programming from just being around me. So like, what are the biggest things that people can look out to, and like, your experience working with business people and other people who you've helped, turn around and deliver like high results. Like, what is it that people need to be looking out for to say, this is me sabotaging myself, or this is like an
Yeah.
unconscious program running?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer that in 2 ways. So the first way is because most humans have trauma. And when I talk about trauma, I'm talking about any time the body felt unsafe. You can walk into a school system for the first time and you can just feel unsafe. And it doesn't have to be like I beat the heck out of you trauma. So it's really comes from our complex in our brain, which is that fight, flight, freeze, hide. So any trauma gets stuck, and I've seen it because of my, because I can see things multidimensionally, but I see it stuck in their cellular memory and their energy field along all these other levels, and it gets stuck there. And then the next moment, they see someone and they think, oh, that person is just like my mother. And then they react like that. And they don't even have a conscious awareness that they are reacting that way, because it comes from, again, our complex, which is saying you better fight back. You're frozen in this moment. You're afraid, you're withdrawing, you're hiding. It's just an automatic reaction because we are animals. Humans, this body is an animal. So the trauma is where we sabotage a lot. And again, think about what I suggest. I love to help people like look at their life, and when did you feel unsafe, especially in the very formative years? Because from the ages of 0 to about 7, you're in that alpha theta brainwave state. And that's when you're being programmed by your environment. So that is usually where our patterns start. So again, when did I feel safe? Oh, I felt unsafe because my mom got mad at me and she told me to go into my room and I had to wait for dad to come home. And you felt unsafe. So you saw your bed as unsafe. And it's weird. I've seen so many different things. And then can I add to that also? It's about consciousness. So with business, I want to kind of move into a different direction. So we sabotage through our traumas, but everything holds consciousness. And this is something that a lot of people don't take into play. I have watched people's businesses and their consciousness of their business. It fascinates me. And I'm like, look, I was reading someone's business. They have like a TV network. And when I was reading it, I said, look, that network right now, the consciousness of that network has no idea what's going on. It's confused. It feels like it's kind of like rolling around in the dirt and with no place to go and no purpose. And that was the consciousness of their business. So it's fascinating. Yes, your business has a consciousness. It's part of your consciousness, but it also has its individual consciousness.
And so would you say that that's like when people start to connect to that, it can expand from there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I always say to people, like people will say to me, okay, 2 years ago, my business just started to go downhill. What happened? And I said, well, what happened? Oh, right at that time, I got a divorce and it was my company with my ex. Did you talk to your company? And then my question next is, did you talk to your company that your ex is now out? And no, I didn't. Well, of course, because it was used to both energies and now you just ripped it away. Look, does anyone feel good when something's ripped away from us and we have no idea what happened?
Mm.
So it is important for you to talk to the business. Even if you pretend, even if you don't believe in this, you can just pretend and just say, if my business did have a consciousness, how would it feel? How did it feel 2 years ago when I almost lost everything? And now all I feel is like I'm just like running and grinding and grinding away at everything. How does my business feel? Oh, it feels stress. So that's going to also affect your business and your wallet.
Mm.
Same thing with your financials, because your energy is very connected to money. Money is a very interesting frequency. When I look at it, like the collective around money, around governments with money, it's fascinating how it all works.
Mm. And obviously, a lot of people, most people, they're like going out there and doing things that they're not very conscious about to go and make this thing called money anyway. But like, what results have you seen when people do connect to like this consciousness and start expanding and ascending? What results have you
Yeah. Well, personally, I can give you my personal story around that. I was in a relationship for a long time with two children, and my husband and he started sabotaging his life and sabotaging his relationship with me, sabotaging money, and I was doing everything to make everything work. And I was in that sacrificial lamb, right? I was sacrificing for the family. I'm very much a giver, and I'm very aware of how people feel. So I want to make sure everybody's happy. And I was also raising children, which were my priority, but I was also working sometimes like two different jobs and and I was building my business. And every time I pulled away and just was like, okay, this business is all about service and what is it I'm really trying to do and how can I love and connect to the people I'm working with, my business would accelerate. The minute that I would go into fear or lack because my ex would lose a job, all of a sudden my business would go down, and I was like, no, 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 we don't work like that. So I noticed that, and then eventually I did leave him and divorce, which is not always a pleasant experience, but it was amazing because the moment I made the real decision, the spirit just told me, like, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And that is also the key. The thing is, you don't want your ego to make the decisions in your business, because the ego comes from, I call the ego the 7-year-old kid, high on sugar, running around, wondering what to do, no place to go, nothing to do. They're just like, right? And the ego will just go, oh, shiny object, do this. Oh, that person made money that way. I'm going to do that. And what happens is they lose themselves.
Mm.
They lose their own centeredness. What resonates with you? So what I love to share about that is, take your genius, what you do in the physical world. I've met people who are, do training, for physical training. I don't know what you call it in the UK. And take that and your spiritual component of chakras and start using both. Don't give up your training and and only do one thing, marry them, make them both happen. So you want to take your genius and your interest in spirituality or consciousness or whatever else there is. So, like, I have always found people fascinating. If I didn't bring that into the realm of what I do, I was a psychology. I had an undergraduate degree in psychology because I found it fascinating. If I didn't marry that innate ability, I wouldn't be where I am right now. If I didn't bring that into what I do.
And I've got a really interesting question I want to ask you, which is, do you think when, like, you say, like, the physical world kind of, let's call it like the technical development is then married with like this, expansion of consciousness, the inner world, the transformational work, whatever we want to call it, can that and when that comes together and produces a better result, can that happen outside of someone's awareness?
So are you saying the technical, that when you say technical?
So if it's like, like, oh, I need to know how to invest, I need to know X, Y, and Z, how to invest. But at the same time, we bring in like alignment, so they trust their intuition and like they work on themselves personally. Yeah. So like if someone like a trainer or facilitator has the ability to do that, can they go and get better results and it be outside of their awareness that, hey, this is how we did it because we brought both sides together?
Yes, absolutely. People do it all the time. They're like, I just felt like that was the right thing to do. They're like, I trusted my gut. That's intuition. And yeah, absolutely. It can happen without people knowing. Maybe you went through like a little, what a lot of places call a dark night of the soul, where you kind of went through a transformation within. And then all of a sudden your relationships are better, or all of a sudden you get this new job that is perfect for you, and you have more flexibility that you've always wanted, more money. So all of these things, yeah, it always happens that way. But on the other flip side of that, you can also sabotage it. So you have to be conscious. Like, any time in my life, and this is how I look at it, Mark, maybe it's a little bit different, but I always look in this moment, are things flowing or is there resistance? The universe and the energy, look, they've measured energy. And the thing is that most things, an atom has all space in it. So there's always a movement of energy. The energy is always moving. Either we're resisting it or we're flowing with it. If you're canoeing and you're in rapids and you fall out of your canoe, they always say, just put your feet out and ride the rapid. You don't try to resist the rapid. You need to ride with the rapid. So that's a great tool, I think, for people, is to ask, like, okay, this investment, every time I look at it or feel it, I feel stress. I feel like my body does this. Okay, so how can it flow better? What can I do to help it flow? And then I'll just say, show me. Who you're asking, you can call it God or you can call it yourself, your own higher consciousness. You don't have to believe in anything, because you have you. And if you trust you, your higher consciousness will help you out. And all of a sudden somebody calls you up and says, hey, I have this, I think that investment that you did, we should really shift it over to this one. And then all of a sudden you do that because that felt right and you just did it.
Absolutely. And the reason I asked you that question is because sometimes people, they come to the trainings that we facilitate and we very much concentrate on both sides. Like, one without the other, we don't see any results. Yeah, and we've very often debrief amongst our team, and we're like, look, some people, they don't even know why they feel so good. They don't know how they managed to do something they never even thought they were able to do, like pick up the phone and raise £140,000 right there in the room. That's what somebody did. They just didn't know how that happened. And the challenge is for us is like, how do you market that stuff, to help people? But like it just happens. It just
well, yeah. So can I give you what I'm hearing?
Uh-huh.
So it's really is about your company. So because your company, so I'm going to read your company. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
All right. So what I'm seeing is that your company is all about expansion, and
Mhm.
it's all about movement and expansion. And really, when you look at your company, there's a lot of heart in there, a lot of heart frequency, which is very rare. I don't usually see many companies uh, have heart frequency. So when you are in your training, it's not what you are teaching them, but underneath it and subconsciously, what you're helping people with is to use their heart connection. And also the company also, I don't know, it's interesting. It's almost like the company energy follows them as well, because you are like, yes, when they leave the training, um, I still want to support them, even if I'm not physically there or I even know, talk to them. I just want to still support them. And the company does that. So, yeah, you have a different frequency in your company than a lot of people. And
Right.
anybody can do that. I have a feeling that you have done this many, many times. So you're good at it.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah, so whoever is watching who has ever been to the training, or I can see some people who has commented, it'll be interesting to get your view of what Melissa is saying and what your view of the whole situation is as well. Yeah, awesome, Liliana. Good to see you on here as well. So, guys, if you're watching this, hit the share button onto your timeline and do tag at least 10 people in the tribe, 10 people outside of the tribe, if you're in the real life tribe, that is. And by the end of the show, for the people, we will pick somebody who will win the prize, which will be the real life coin loaded onto the credit card. So here we go. Based on that, thank you for that. That's really cool. I wasn't expecting you to go into that, but I think you were kind of spot on. Well, like we always treat everyone as a family, whether they're a client or in our real life tribe, whichever business it is. We run multiple businesses under this brand, and yeah, we treat everybody like family, and we want to see everybody do better no matter what. And like I said, our saying is do the right thing for the right reason. And that's what this is all about. But in your book, and I think this connects nicely to what you're talking about here, in this book here, this amazing book, you talk about the planes, the physical plane, emotional plane, mental plane, and the spiritual. Yeah. So like, what can people become aware of that you can share in this short amount of time that we have here to help them be more aware of, like, this is why you're getting the result you are, and this is what you can go do to improve it, better it, or literally just be more passionate about what you do?
Yeah. Well, the planes of existence are the subtle energies, and this is, you can think about it like dimensions. So that's a different way to look at it if you're very more scientific, and you can see it in a different way. The Vedas talked about it. So this is ancient knowledge. This isn't something, some spiritual person made up. So it's ancient knowledge. And I kind of marry the idea of the planes of existence and the human body. So there's energy fields around the human body, and there's the physical body, the emotional body, and the mental body. So there's a physical plane, emotional plane, and a mental plane. And what we're trying to do is master those planes of existence and master the energies within ourselves. So if you don't exercise and you aren't your emotional mess, it's going to affect your mental body. So they all interact.
Mm.
And these planes of existence also interact with us. And their interaction is how we perceive our world as well. And have you ever noticed that you have a new awareness about something and all of a sudden you see it everywhere? So let's say, you're like, I'm really thinking about getting a yellow sports car. And now everywhere you look is that yellow sports car. All of a sudden it's everywhere. It's really about perception. Those yellow sports cars were there. You just never noticed them before. So what you're perceiving is we are taught to only perceive this physical realm. But let's just take a moment. Money. Is it a physical thing? Not really. Yes, you can have a piece of paper that represents money, but when it's in your bank account or in your portfolio, is it a piece of paper? Well, yes, but it's a different type of paper. Is it still money? Well, yes, but what kind of money, right? So it's perception. And same with wealth. So when you're looking at wealth consciousness, let's talk about it this way. When you're looking at wealth consciousness only from the physical level, you'll say, well, that person has wealth and that person does not. But there are degrees, just like your emotional body has a degree. And just like the mental body has a degree, we live in the world of duality, right, wrong, good, bad, love, unlovable, right? It's duality. And when we start to recognize that we don't have to fall into all this duality, we start to understand and have a new perspective of the mental abilities that we don't have to fly into. Oh my God, I hate that. Oh my God, I love that. Right? We don't have to do that. We can start recognizing that you can come it more into center and go, okay, if I were to see this through the perspective of heart, what would it look like? If I approach this person instead of being afraid of what might happen, if I approach them through my heart, how would that be? More emotional instead of the mental going, chattering away. So I really don't feel like you can take the planes of existence and our energy bodies and separate them. I think that they're very entwined and entangled. And the more you reach the more broader perspective, the more availability you have of possibilities. And I think that's really the key. My sense is that what you're really asking me is when you work on these planes of existence, when you deal with them in your own energy bodies, what does that mean? It means possibilities. Have you ever had a problem where you're just like, I just don't know what to do about this? And then you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to put it away. I'm not going to think about it for a little while. I call that surrender. And I'm going to put it away. And then all of a sudden you're just doing the dishes or talking to a friend and you have an epiphany and the solution comes to you. That is the before you were narrow focused. And now that you pulled your narrow focus away, then you had a broader focus and the possibility came through. So I think what people really want to know is, how do I tap into the possibilities that I am not perceiving or knowing about?
And that is one of the awesome things I got from the book, is that how the planes are perceived as separate, but like really they are one. I forget what the terminology you use. What's the terminology you use? Like the spiral
A
effect.
spiral. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, and just like how they're all interacting with each other. And really that's how I have, I don't know if took advantage, but like benefited from this. And really things changed. And it's always good to have people to look up to, I think. And I look up to Robert Kiyosaki for his investing and his financial teaching ability. And one time I heard him say, he said, like, all of my wealth comes from spirituality. And like that made me like want to dive into it and be like, yeah, what does he mean by this? And going through a journey and discovering more, it's like, yeah, it's so true, because like this is where it's all coming from anyway. So why try and intercept it at the last point of it existing, which is that physical or financial manifestation? Let's just go to the root of it and create whatever we want to create. So it leads on to a next question. What do you think about films? Are there messages in films like, I have this opinion of a film that, like, if someone has come up with this idea, it's happened somewhere. Like, it's not like, what do they call it? Like fiction. It's not fiction. I think it's happened somewhere. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because we all have there's a collective conscious. Carl Jung talks about a collective consciousness. And I've actually seen how collective consciousness works. So yeah, I mean, it has to come from somewhere. That thought is already available, and you can take it from film, and even people who are inventors. That comes from a collective consciousness. That's why a lot of people are inventing the same things at the same time. That's
Mm.
why everybody wants to patent as soon as they invent, because that availability is everywhere. I've actually read for people, I'm like, you think that that idea isn't that it's your idea, but in reality, if you have it, other people have it. So that's the same thing. And the reason films we use films in our life is because it's an escape sometimes, and it also breeds energy that either supports us or kind of is detrimental to us. So if if you believe that aliens are going to come and destroy the planet, you're in fear. If you believe they're going to come and help us with disease and and our governments have agreed that there is aliens out there, so I'm not that weird. And or that they're going to help us with disease and technology, that's two different things. So yeah, I think that always those films and they have to come from some awareness somewhere. Everything's recycled. Think about that. Everything is recycled.
Yeah, I mean, when I started to see things, I was thinking like, I started to believe like, wow, like me or whoever else is watching it, like we're supposed to watch this at this point in time to see if we get the message or not. And before that, to even create the film in the first place, like that person had to see the message to say, hey, I'm going to direct this or screenwrite this or whatever. And I really started to see that. And like I like to see that from everywhere in life now. I'm always like, what's the message here? What's the lesson? And see how I can use it for the greater good. And
I
actually,
love that.
I don't mind admitting, like when I was when I was younger, I lied a lot. I used to steal, do wrong things just to benefit myself. I screwed my own dad over to make more money for myself when we were working together. And it wasn't until, and it was hard work, always graft. And it wasn't until actually I started doing the right thing for the right reason, where things actually did start to, like show up for me. Like when I was a kid, I never had any money. We didn't have any money. I'm from a very poor background. And I was like, oh, I want to buy that. And funnily enough, as I did start to create success, and then I like have the money to buy these things. It's like actually sometimes now I get these things for free, or like an opportunity comes, and it just goes to show, like you say, money is a representation of something. But when you're in flow, things do start coming to you, and that's a hard bit for people to understand. Like, is it right? Is it really the true? And I still have glimpses of like, is it really that? Should I just really knuckle down and just work hard, and that's the only way to make it work? So like, there's always that like bit of ego that comes in. So I think people have this kind of glimpse of this power that might be like, like you say, something drops in, a bit of like the wittiness at a party or conversation. You just knew what to say, you knew what to do. And like my experience of that is like something called an ascension. Yeah. So do you think that people have these glimpses of that, not quite sure of it, and then may try to create like synthetic versions through like drugs, alcohol, sex, that type of thing? Like, what have you experienced around that?
Yeah, so we're always creating, you're creating your reality, whether you know about it or not, whether you agree with it or not, because we are creative beings. And a lot of people, it's hard. Some people find it hard, and that's why they move into drugs or alcohol. And they also feel that things, if they were taught, so, like you, Mark, you were taught at a very early age that we have to suffer and survive. So no wonder you go into your business and you're kind of feeling in that suffering survival mode. And that's okay, right? There's no right or wrong or bad or good. It's just really like, where are you now? So maybe you had to go through that, or you had to do the things you did so that you could go on the other end. So you experience literally both ends of the duality. And maybe that helped you see a broader perspective.
Sure.
and how to create.
I definitely believe like that. Like I was born into that family at that time to go through that. So then, like you say, I can say, enough's enough. Like, let's change this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I believe that. Yeah.
And there goes back to the possibilities, right? We limit our possibilities. And honestly, I see the world as abundant. And that's another thing that I think that just play with. What would it look like if everything were abundant around me?
Mhm.
That there was always abundance. And if you look at our world, there's always, everything's abundant. There's an abundance of stars, there's an abundance of people, there's abundance of opportunities, there's an abundance of money. Money isn't, look, money isn't what people perceive of it. I think that, and I'm going to go kind of like off off the rail a little bit because I'm feeling this is important. Money in the collective consciousness for most humans, they have, they're trying to make money something that is inachievable and hard to get. Once we no longer buy into that narrative that we have to work for the man or work to the bone or whatever, once we stop buying into that narrative and see the potential and the abundance, we can no longer buy into that narrative.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. Like all the programming you taught when you're a child, like the environment is like the matrix, which definition as a matrix is like a container, like you are inside that and it shapes you, and that's what happens. And it's interesting what you said about what you read from the company, which is about the heart, because very much we're all about culture, and the environment is absolutely key. Whenever we do any trainings, like the environment, we have set rules that some people like we think rules, I'm just here to listen and write notes, but like we are full on like activity based, getting into the thick of it. And it's like we got to undo some things. I mean, that's why we opened the WEC Center, to help the children, because it was like people were coming to us wanting training, and we realized, hold on a minute, we're undoing a lot of things here. Why wait for that to happen for another generation? Let's just go and train them from the beginning.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and there are great people who talk about energy and wealth, um, like Neville, and I'm trying, for some reason I can't remember all the things that The Secret was based off of, all those teachings. This isn't new. This isn't new. I think that people who did, it's manifestation. It's about creation. We are creative beings. Could you imagine not living our lives creating? Like, we're always creating. We're creating this conversation, we're creating in this moment, we're creating energy, we're creating a connection with you. I feel all the people that are connecting either online live now or even in the future. So there is this energy connection all the time, and we're creating in that. We're co-creating. When you're in your training, what happens is you create a co-creation of abundance.
Absolutely. So, got a couple more questions before we start wrapping this up. And the first question is like, just tell us about this spiritual expansion academy, and what kind of things people, get from that, and the kind of value you add into people.
Great. Yeah. So really, okay. I'm sorry, I'm hesitating because I'm like, where do I start? Basically, my book is a good way to introduce what I do to people. I also have, I've really been into like dreaming and lucid dreaming, and that is a great way to create. I'm doing a class on lucid dreaming in July. And then I'm also in the middle of writing a book on manifestation, but it's really about how to manifest in a whole nother level. It's not like what people usually talk about manifestation. It's really more quantum manifestation and working in the records and how to clear some of our subconscious programming to manifest.
Yeah, that's the core. crux of it coming together. So yeah, so thank you for sharing that. So a couple more questions here. But before I ask you these questions and we wrap up, I just want to thank you for coming on here, sharing your wisdom, giving your energy here, to me, for the people, and just creating this collaboration, which many people are going to see over the coming however long it stays out there in the information. So we have a saying. Oh, actually, before I ask you that, like, if you was to, like, have a microphone right now that's going to translate to every language across this planet right now, and you had like a 30-second window to just give a message to every being on this planet, like, what would that message be?
The message would be, bring your awareness out of your head and into your heart. Because when the heart and the head work together, and then the body, mind, which is the gut, when they all work in unison as a coherent energy, you can create anything. Because the fear is in the gut, the heart is forgotten, and the head overanalyzes and actually can keep you stuck. So when you bring more awareness to your heart, you are more connected to all that you are, your truest self, and you can create in ways that there's limitless possibilities.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So last question. Yeah, in our community, and everything that we do, we always say that we can never, ever, ever let people forget that they must do the right thing for the right reason. Now, why is that?
Yeah, well, because it's going to reverberate into your own energy field. And then if you do something that is, let's say you do the wrong thing. And I know that's not where you're, because you're a very positive person, which I am too. But I also recognize we're humans and we like have a moment. I call it the moment where we do the wrong thing. In that moment, when you do the wrong thing, go back inside and go, you know what? I felt this way, and it's okay that I felt this way. And, I forgive myself and I forgive the other person. And because when you hold on to the wrong thing, it does reverberate into your energy field. And that is the energy that's being created around you. That's what's being attracted to you. When you do the right thing for the right reasons, all of a sudden, like, life gets easier. Things just happen. You all of a sudden meet this amazing person that has this awareness that is going to give you a new idea of something that is going to help you and maybe even the world or the children or whatever. So when you do that, it's more of a frequency. So I see everything as energy. It's just how I am. So the right thing for the right reasons has a higher vibration. And when you do things that are not quite nice or at a higher vibration, it's a lower frequency, and you don't want to attract that in your life. But if you do have a moment, and you are human, you may have a moment. When you do, be okay with that and go, okay, what was I feeling? And you reconnect. So yeah, does that make sense?
That is beautiful. Thank you so much for adding to our library. I asked that question and I love getting all the different perspectives on it. But I also just want to ask you to do us the honor of adding to our library, because we have a saying that says you got to do the right thing for the right reason, because that's the only way to discover your true potential. So if I ask you the question again, are you able to say that?
Can I say that?
So I'll ask the question, we've got to do the right thing for the right reason. And then the answer is, because that's the only way to discover your true potential.
Discover your true potential. Yes.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
So we must never let people forget that they got to do the right thing for the right reason. Now, why is that?
That's because it's the only way you can discover your own potential.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah, brilliant. So, Melissa, thank you so much for coming on here. All the people are commenting saying it's been amazing. been very fascinating, very insightful, which I knew it would be, reading your book and you doing the honor and coming on here. So absolute pleasure to have you on here. Thank you so much, Melissa.
So much fun. Thank you.
Yeah, and for you guys who are watching, you know, in 10 minutes time we got our real life mastermind, so make sure you log on to that. Remind everyone, let everybody know in our community. That's what we're jumping on to. And this week, thank you so much, this has been very fitting, by the way, Melissa, because tomorrow we're going to be setting up for our 4-day program of Discover Your True Potential, financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's going to be an absolute whirlwind of a 4 days. It's going to feel like 4 years for some people, because there's so much there. So thank you for kind of teeing us up nicely and being a part of the energy of that. And for everybody else watching, you heard what Melissa said. She said you got to do the right thing for the right reason, because that is the only way to discover your true potential. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Bye. Thank